Welcome to the stage, Dan Harmon, Joe McHale, Jim Rash, Yvette Nicole Brown, Allison Green, Danny Prudy, Jillian Jacobs, Ann Young, and Chris McKenna.
Somebody said it could be here, we could be roped up, tied up, dead in here. I love you more than words can say. I can't count the reasons I should
So right before then, when did you guys last see each other?
I saw Allison at the Golden Globes.
That's
she
true.
was nominated.
Paid her to say
She was nominated.
This is the first I've been allowed to see anybody.
Restraining order.
This is really awesome, though.
like we maybe had a coffee 6 months ago.
I believe there's a text chain, and can you explain what happens on this text chain? Who's good at it? Who's better at it?
Lately, we're mostly giving Ken shit about how he's gonna buy us all a very expensive
Free dinner tonight.
Free dinner.
Yeah,
on
Ken.
Ken
Ken
tonight.
Guys,
Versus
ties are
behind
tough.
again,
I don't
so
think I can
Ken's
do it.
taking us to dinner tonight. I
really don't think I am. I really
don't think I am.
Very expensive restaurant.
Oh, it's really stressing me out. I really don't think I am.
We are reopening Marie Callender's on Wilshire.
Please do. Please
That-
do it. Do it. Do it.
That was my first job here, so I'll be waiting on you.
Would you like pie?
We have 23, I know.
So I had asked the cast for their favorite episodes and moments, and we're going to go through those. But before that, I want to talk a little bit about the pilot, which was premiered 10 years and 2 months ago.
Wow.
And yet I haven't aged a day.
And it retained 97% of The Office's ratings.
It did.
That's all I remember.
So
The following week, you're done.
So the show changed quite a bit after that, but thinking back on the pilot, was there something in the script or something in your characters that you could point to and you're like, that's the show that we made, even in those first days, that it had whatever the special sauce of the show was?
No.
I feel like when I think about the difference between the pilot and the series, I always think of Britta, because Britta's character in particular, it was such a, and I all props to my colleagues, but it was such a straight dude like kind of version of a girl as a carrot, you know, for the male protagonist. And it was like, from the way we dressed her to every line of her dialogue and all these things, it was like we didn't discover the Britta character for a long time. And it was by the end of the series, I mean, some people may go like, oh, that's the character, I don't like it here, I don't like it there. But one thing's for sure, that Britta became so developed. It was like, and like I think of the pilot and I'm just like, oh, she was like a mannequin with like, yeah.
Do you agree, Gillian?
She certainly changed.
But you knocked it out of the park also.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think about the first Winger speech when I think about the pilot, and what was essentially Community to me was Joel delivering the sharks and pencils and Ben Affleck speech. But I think the thing that was special was that I had never, A, gotten to do a pilot that was that well written, and then B, when we started shooting it and we were sitting around the table and I was just blown away by the extraordinary talent of the people in the cast, which the world has since discovered, but that truly felt like something special. And I remember one of the camera operators said to me, you better find an apartment in LA, and no one had ever said that on any pilot I've been a part of before.
He was a stalker and had nothing to do with the pilot.
So we're going to go through the series based on your episodes. So the first choice is Season 1, Episode 7, Introduction to Statistics. Danny, you mentioned this. Danny,
Oh, sorry. Hey, how's it going?
How's it going?
We haven't seen each other.
Why did you single this one out?
This is, when I think about the show, I think this is the first time during this episode where I felt like we were all clicking. I think everyone was kind of doing their own thing and everyone showed up. The costumes were all like very specific. I felt like the world was kind of starting to establish itself, meaning that the world there was everything. It was just chaos. And I got to play Batman, which was a dream of mine ever since I was a kid, so.
Can you still do the voice? And if so, can you do it right now?
Yeah, also one of my favorite lines. Chex Mix, pretzels, baby carrots, predictable but appetizing.
This was Justin Lin's first episode that he directed.
Justin Lin.
He never went on to anything.
He rigged the chair Ford explosion, and the other thing is that the weird thing about NBC changing its clock, it just happened that this was the first episode, about 6 episodes in, where the tags started needing to get shot, and this episode was the first time that we put Troy and Abed together in this like intimate way. In that tag for that episode where you guys are sitting there improvising really about Cookie Monster and stuff. And this episode was the birth of that friendship, which was based on organic chemistry between actors on set, as opposed to us having predetermined that Pierce and Troy were gonna be like the Beavis and Butthead of the show.
I mean, this in many ways, rewatching it, it felt like a sort of second pilot for the show, where it's like a complete reintroduction. What had you learned, and what did sort of this episode reveal that would become the show that is when we think of Community?
I mean, I think that because it was about 6 or 7 weeks, the weird thing back then was if you had a show on NBC and you opened your laptop, you could, for the first time, Twitter was relatively new, especially the concept of people cross-platform viewing. But I was just watching people watch the show. And so it was again, this episode was being produced around the time when I was watching people watch the pilot. And I was watching what they were responding to. And what they were responding to was obviously character. They were quoting lines, and the lines weren't one-liners. They weren't like Henny Youngman jokes that were cleverly crafted. They were lines that encapsulated the characters, that made them unique. And so I think that was the big thing for me, was as of this episode, there's a kind of puberty that the show hits, because I was just like, oh, these characters are real. You service them, and then the world can be insane.
Apologies to the Henny Youngman fans.
These millennials, they love him. Just because he has Young in his name.
So there are 2 character decisions in this episode that I want to talk about. First was Gillian helped in choosing the costume. The squirrel that was started from You Wanted to Be a Chipmunk. Can you talk about being collaborative on that idea?
They asked me, what do you want to be? And I said, how about a squirrel?
Finally, we really get deep. Wow. Saw the seam. We saw the crease.
Chew on that. How the Sistine Chapel was made as well. Want something on the ceiling? Please.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, it was, I don't know why I wanted to be a squirrel.
It was high every day, you guys.
I don't remember. Dan, do you remember anything?
No, I think he really just said squirrel.
I think you wanted the comfort of it too. I remember every costume you wore was comfortable.
Wrong.
No?
That tail was very heavy.
It wasn't.
We thought that we all
They
thought
did.
that.
I could have swore you enjoyed the squirrel.
They did
Oh, you
not
just like the
rig that
comfortable
tail
stuff.
well. It was grooving ridges into my shoulders for that week. I think it was. I don't know.
We got the furry audience big time on this one, though.
Yeah, it just felt right for Britta that she would not wear a stereotypical girls on Halloween costume.
There was also a joke, I believe, that Shirley was supposed to do to the statistics teacher's office.
Uh-oh.
That was cut out.
We're gonna
I
talk
would
about
love
this,
to hear
Dan?
the conversation of, well, if you can tell the audience what was supposed to happen and why we determined Shirley wasn't a person who would do that.
Okay, so I've told this before. Dan knows I've told this story before. Shirley was supposed to take a shit in the drawer.
Or she was supposed to want to. She was supposed to
I
want
thought she was supposed to do it.
No, I don't think that wouldn't be NBC TV.
She was supposed to drop her pants.
She was supposed to start dropping her pants and saying, "I'm going to shit in this
And I
drawer."
felt, as a dignified black woman, that no dignified black woman would ever do that. And I remember I was so sad. Like, I was so sad that I had to go talk to my boss and try to explain. And I remember I went to Joe Russo and I said, "Joe, something horrible has happened and we have to fix it." And I told Joe what my problem was, and Joe cracked up. He was like, "Yvette, it's a comment. You don't understand. I'm the only black woman on the show." And I don't. So I went to Dan and I talked to Dan and I said, listen, I know our show may not be for, Christian black women and of a certain age, but, if one or two is watching, we're going to lose them as soon as I drop my trowel. They never coming back. They ain't never coming back.
You only get one chance
One
with Christian
time.
black women.
You defile a black woman once and she's out of there. So I said, we should find something else, please, sir. And he was kind enough to come up with the hose in the drawer.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. It's funny to even think that there would be a debate, like nowadays, if you came to my office and said, "Black woman," I'd be like, "Huh? Yeah." Don't cancel me.
Listen.
Ironically, like when we weren't filming, Yvette would shit anywhere. On the
Everywhere.
But
All the
but
time,
she would
right?
always say before she did it,
All
she'd say, I'm not representing my race or my
I'm not
gender.
representing black women as I do this.
I'm just representing someone who had a lot of Chick-fil-A.
So we're about to go to season 2 episodes.
They came to set a lot, no joke.
But before we go to season 2, does anyone have any stray thoughts about contemporary American poultry or the first paintball episode? Since seemingly that person really wants to hear it.
I'll say contemporary American poultry, which was the homage to Goodfellas. When that freeze happened and Danny, as Abed said, "I always wanted to be in a mafia movie." I was like, I think I'm on the greatest television show ever made.
I think that episode also sees the introduction of Annie's boobs, monkey that was very well known on our show. I don't know why people loved the monkey so much, or why I'm
Nicely
mentioning
done.
it now.
Nicely done.
But here we are.
Annie's boobs.
At one point, people became convinced that monkey was going to save our show, and we had to do a syndication photo shoot.
With the monkey.
And
Yes.
they
Season 4.
tried to work the monkey into every shot, and at one point, it was all of us pressed up against the study room windows, and the publicist was like, "And remember to look down because they're going to add the monkey swinging on the door handle." And Joel went, "No more monkey!" And then, since then, I have called the show Kamunkity. But yeah, that monkey was supposed to save us all. You'd worked with the monkey before.
Oh my God, Hangover 2 and 3. It was amazing.
Oh, I can't.
Made a lot of money. Crystal, right?
Wow.
Crystal the monkey. Tom Gunderson's the trainer.
Can't believe Ken dropped that in there. That's.
What? How dare you? No, you had the How mic dare up you? to your mouth waiting to say that.
There was an audience question. Does anyone know if the monkey's still alive?
Ken.
That's a.
Ken,
Ken,
doing amazing. Oh my God, I was at the little beach house in Malibu right next to Nobu. We had like amazing sushi.
Braggart.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, I am bragging, and it was great. I had a great time. Crystal and Tom, they send their regards. It was great.
I'm pretty sure if there's an animal that you learn the name of, it's already dead 6 months ago. Sorry. There were 70 lassies. You heard it from me first. Don't Google Milo and Otis. Good night. I got a letter from PETA that shut that monkey shit down.
Season 2, episode 9, conspiracy theories and interior design. Dan and Chris, you both mentioned this episode. What did you love about it?
Kevin.
Oh, Kevin.
Kevin Corrigan.
Chris?
Professor Professorson.
If needs must.
What's that?
That's what he said. If needs must. I just remember him saying that in an episode.
Etc.
Did you just mispronounce? Etc. No, it was just a really great, fun episode. It was an idea that was kicked around. I think Megan Gantz had come up with like, oh, what if there was a conspiracy theory episode And it was like Joel's taking a class like that. Then I was like, oh, what if that class didn't even exist? Or maybe I don't know. We came up with like a fun plot that was only like half of a plot though. And we would always go back to it. And then we actually wrote a whole conspiracy about night school.
No,
and then
literally,
the
when
night before we started shooting it.
When you watch that episode, at the point where Jeff and Annie say, and it's like it goes to commercial break with her going, why, and him going, I don't know, and it goes to commercial. That was the entirety of the pitch of that episode, was like just this idea of like, we knew it was a good idea, but we didn't.
There you go, Dan. Do it. Do your thing.
What?
Make 2 more acts of it. That was I was so excited about that first.
I thought
act
you were
break.
saying, Dan, go ahead, Dan, be a panel hog.
No. No, but we were so happy with that act break, but we didn't know what to do with it. And we still didn't when we started shooting it.
That's what is amazing. I mean, I work in animation now where you can just make people draw stuff, and we're not that ballsy. We had human beings that had to show up and go into makeup, and we were like, man, we'll figure it out. It was crazy. The third act of that episode was literally like Chris and I ran to the phone. We had figured it out, and we were like, oh, there's a lot of guns in this. And we had to call S&P at NBC, and we pitched the fine, wonderful woman at S&P at NBC. We pitched her the whole thing, and she heard it all, and she said, ha. And so they're not really getting shot. We're like, yeah, but it's going to be bloody, it's going to squibs. And then she said something like, could the whole thing be about gun safety?
Yes, it can.
Yes, it can, because it wasn't about anything 10 minutes ago. May as well be about pretzels.
She's the head writer of This Is Us now.
But in typical fashion, we wrote ourselves into a corner, and then while we were trying to burr our way out of it, the production was going, it was like, this is happening, and they were just like, I guess you have to shoot this because it's Thursday now.
This is answering so many
That's
questions
how you do it.
about
So
why
many
our
questions.
hours were so long. I
But
do
Jiv-
remember, because Kevin Corrigan was so great in the episode, but also very shocked by how long it took us to shoot an episode. And I remember I'd be standing with him in the hallway, and he'd just be like, I don't understand. It's a half-hour comedy show. And I'd be like, it's okay, Kevin. Now get on your hands and knees. We got to race through this blanket fort.
Adam Davidson shot that episode, and I don't know. It's a movie. I mean, there are a million shots in that.
And then at one point he's playing the Tradiksniks.
Oh, yeah, that's...
I studied for this panel, you guys, and I will show off my knowledge.
You did prep, Allie.
Actually
You
prepped
did.
and watched. Did you watch the whole?
You watched the whole
I
series.
did not watch the whole series.
You watched a lot of episodes.
I did. I skipped the gas leak year,
Hey,
and I
fair.
just
Okay.
jumped around.
you
I
jumped
around.
Okay.
What was
Next
it about?
question.
What was it about a fourth that you're like, oh, we need to this? This is such a rich setting that we need to revisit pillows and blankets for another season. What about a blanket fort? What about a blanket fort did you, as the creators of the show, were like, we need to revisit this in a future season?
What is he trying to say?
I feel like it's a pretty straightfortard question.
Because there was
Pop what?
Season 3.
Yeah, we did
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
we did the Ken Burns episode.
Documentary, yeah.
because this was a creative compromise, right, Dan?
It was a combination of us desperately, what have we done that we used to love, and Sony being like, you're $1 million over budget, and I was like, so?
They had reduced the budget to about $50,000 an episode, so.
I mean, in order to pay for the episodes we'd done, like you can't keep making movies every week. You now have to make an episode that's. And I was like, what if it was just photos? And they're like, you got us. You can keep making a TV show technically, but this isn't over. Back to making our VCRs. See, that's the thing. Like, you can't trust a TV studio that makes VCRs. They're like, they hate TV.
Yeah.
They're like, we must destroy TV.
Skip.
Season 2.
Laser discs
chose
were.
Episode 13, Celebrity Pharmacology. Joel, this was your choice. What did you love about this episode?
Oh, I like the part where Jim is warming up the. Yeah, this is where Jim, the dean, has to warm up the junior high school crowd before we we presented a play about not doing drugs.
I forgot about that.
And the dean did a one-man freeze tag game. And then he kept the suggestion from the like, can I get a suggestion? And the kid just goes bald. And they're like, all right, can I get an occupation? Mayor of Bald City. And then Jim proceeded to do, this is where I thought Donald was gonna choke to death because he was laughing so hard. And that was my, look, when they asked what my favorite episode was, all I said was like Jim doing one-man freeze tag and Chang falling in love with a burnt mannequin leg. And I said the scene where they're discussing monkey gas. And that is...
Monkey gas.
That was my entire, there wasn't an entire episode. I was like to play those. So anyway, that's what I loved. And when the kids in that episode at the end of the first act of the play are chanting, "We love drugs," again, I was just like, I think I'm on the greatest television show ever made.
Was this Hillary Winston or Lauren Pomerantz?
I think this was Hillary.
Hillary, probably.
Hillary.
Yeah, there you go.
Jim, what do you remember from that?
Well,
improv?
now I remember everything. I do remember. I do remember that they just had me.
Even his bad miming, he was like driving.
I remember there was a fire.
There was a fire at the cleaners.
On the moon or Mars or
No, I insisted that I was gonna definitely take hair dry cleaning no matter what people said. They said, go out there and do an improv because those guys are having a scene back there, so we might use the audio of your improv while they're back there. And so I just did a long improv about a fire at a dry cleaner, and I think I said it didn't matter what someone said. I said I heard dry cleaner because I had a great plot, and then that was all. I just remember.
You were ironing.
Remember you kept going,
everything went up my dream or something stupid.
Dreams all went up in flames.
That's it.
And then you cut to your brother, who was a firefighter, who was, wow.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
What a show.
What a show.
Time. What a time.
Season 2, episode 14, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh my God.
Allison, Dan, and Chris, you mentioned this episode.
Yes, I chose this episode because I loved playing Hector the Well-Endowed.
Yes.
And I love that during that part of the episode, I got to just improvise a long sex scene with Danny's elf maiden.
Yeah.
None of the audio is in, but you can figure out what I'm saying.
So dirty, you guys. It was so dirty.
But also, upon rewatch, it's just great storytelling. It's a very beautiful episode. I'm being genuine, Ken. Okay. How dare you? How dare you?
Seriously.
Dare you?
Take me seriously for once in your life.
You got to put it like this if you want to get
in this
paid.
relationship.
Ken,
I'm
you
so
were
sorry.
so serious when you filled in for Ellen last week. So can you please?
I was not. I was trying to get laughs.
Okay.
Let's not forget that Ken's sort of in blackface in the episode.
Dark elf.
Really? You have to bring
He's a
that up
dark elf.
right now. Right now, 2019. Really? Really?
I heard that was his
Allison.
choice. He
Really?
pitched it
You
to
have to
me.
bring it up right now. How dare you?
As I was saying, it's great storytelling. And it has a lot of heart. And it solidifies Pierce as the villain of the group, which was very important to where the
was he
show
on the
would go.
throne? On
the
the
tower,
throne? Didn't he
drinking
have
wine.
a throne
Yeah.
or something?
Oh my
And was that the one where we did all the hand pile and then Ken's hand?
yeah, that's
scabbers?
the one.
Ken's
That's where we're
scabbers,
going.
yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And then the little.
Yes. Yeah.
Kate Chang had been there the entire time.
Yeah.
Dan, you mentioned the scene where Jeff confronts Pierce outside, and Pierce says, Pierce says, "You're giving me a look like I can't get erections." As your favorite moment, which is a pretty small, a pretty small moment in the run of the show. What was that about that scene that was so special to you?
I just thought it was just this perfect scene. You showed a clip of it before we came out. I don't like being excluded, Jeff. Do you? Yes.
Yes.
And it's just such a great example of it. I've never been a joke writer, and I didn't write those lines, but those are examples of those aren't jokes. Those are lines that are incredibly funny because you love the characters. There are jokes coming from those particular characters, and it was just this high point of, Chevy. I was finally, as much as he hates doing TV, and he should because it's hard work, and he's a self-described legend, and he's accustomed to work. It's a legend.
Legend. Just
Legend.
legend. Just legend.
I have a tick. I say self-described just randomly. This is great self-described carpet. I love it. No, but I get it. I get why coming from features and having his career, why working the hours that these guys worked was grueling to him. I remember in that moment going Chevy's finally gonna thank me. He's gonna see this episode. He might get an Emmy or something. This is an amazing character for him to play, and it's courtesy of our writers, Chris, Andrew Gask, Megan Gans, and me. I had a milk crate full of my old D&D stuff from when I was a preteen, and I hung on to that stuff because Marie Kondo didn't exist yet, and it did spark joy. It did, but and I brought it into the writer's room and I just plopped it on the table. And the pride I felt when the writer's room didn't go, I was like, if you guys want to take a look at this stuff, I'd love to do a D&D episode. And they were like, all right. And then I went to set or went to the edit bay and came back, and they had this pitch, this idea. The concept was created by them, not me. How do you make a D&D session compelling? The idea of the Fat Neil thing, that was you guys. And I was so proud because it was such a great idea, such a great in. And then Chris.
I came into that room late, and they already had that Saving Private Ryan element with Fat Neil, which was a throwaway joke and conspiracy that then became a person. But I think Hillary was in that room too. I forget who was in that room, but it was.
It was such a crack team. I mean, if I had nothing to compare it to. I didn't know I'm like, I guess this is what it's like to have a staff of writers.
And all of our hard work paid off at that table read.
But I just want to say also, though, Chris came into the show with this particular ability to start bringing the Chevy character to life, in this weird, he's the 10-year-old son way. And that Daffy Duck kind of that version of Pierce, who's being dragged out by the ear by Jeff and lectured, it was just magical. And Joe Russo is on point. He's the guy that's gonna go on and make Marvel movies, but he's owning that room. There's no special effects in the episode. Boy, what a show! It's just such a good character piece. And then the whole thing. Yes, I mean, we wrote it till 11 a.m. We stayed up all night at Andrew Guest's house, did shots of whiskey to wake us up after finishing the script, brought it in time for the table read, read it, and because Game of Thrones wasn't on the air yet, Sony had to have a special meeting and said, there's a lot of gobbling in this script. And one of them said, we wish you had turned this in on time so we could have thrown it in the garbage. And I was so proud because I was like,
they tried to stop it, right?
This justifies everything about my horrible dysfunctions. This is the most enabling thing that could ever happen to me.
Again, never turn anything in on time.
Had you
That's
been
the
more
lesson.
professional, you could have made worse TV.
And my favorite line probably from the whole series is when Pierce gets this sword of Duquesne and he gets it from the roll of a die and he goes, oh, I wipe my ass with it and I throw it off a cliff.
Great.
And then he rapes the Duquesne family twice.
Again.
Twice?
I want to open the floor for any Chevy Chase stories or feelings.
I will say also the erections line, that was another moment for me that I'll never forget because we were outside reading the script with Chevy and he was reading that line for the first time. I think I was watching him read that line for the first time and he was saying erections or erection. I think he had mentioned it should be erection or he wasn't sure why it was erections. And we were all trying to convince him, no, that it should be erections, plural. And that's when I was like, we made it. The show is the greatest show of all time.
All the dialogue wasn't lifted from the meetings where he'd summon us to his trailer. He just would never remember saying this stuff.
Was it 66, dick?
Yeah. I swear to God, so many lines of dialogue were just written in the margins of the script during meetings in his trailer. Wow. I speak 7 languages. I play piano. I have absolute pitch.
Did fuck with the kit on a...
And then we'd write him in the script, and then he'd be like, now we're talking.
Who's this writer?
Season 2, episode 19, critical film studies. Danny, you also mentioned this one. I feel like this was I remember when this came out, this felt like a FU to the people who did not watch the show and just assumed it was like a bunch of parodies. And also I imagine an FU to the network was like, you're gonna do My Dinner with Andre? But how does this sort of represent the difference, what a community thing is, which is sort of homage versus parody for you guys? And what does that mean in terms of writing or performing?
Well, for me, it was always about the Abed character licensed us to do Homage. The show wasn't like, I don't know, Family Guy. I've never seen it. My therapist watches it. But the show doesn't just go, hey, thanks for tuning in. We're going to do Taming of the Shrew this week. I grew up watching Moonlighting, and I observed, I love Moonlighting. This seems like it's off the rails. And God bless them for experimenting, but it was like that was the deal breaker, was that it wasn't an expression of a character. And so Abed was the guy that made it possible to riff in the vocabulary that I understood, thereby making it more realistic than if I just did stories about credit cards and jealousy and dyeing your hair. I just understood, how do you relate to people without getting kicked out of society? Abed was a film major, and it allowed for this stuff. I think I answered your question.
No, and I just loved it when critics, when the show came out, they were like, it's just reference humor. And then critics apologized 2 years later, going like, well, it got better. And I was just like, fuck you. It's always good, dick.
Danny, do you remember memorizing that monologue?
No, we had telephone.
Can you do it for us now?
You had weeks to memorize it, Danny. What happened?
I remember this episode.
Do it now.
I don't know it at all. I just remember the last line was, and I pooped my pants. I remember that. I remember that this is the only episode where I went up to Dan's office with the director, Richard Ayoade, who's incredible. Oh, yes. And I thought did an amazing job.
And that was all Joel's doing, getting Richard to direct the episode.
One of the funniest, most talented people on the planet.
And we showed up in Dan's office, and there was no script yet, and we were just talking about My Dinner with Andre, and I'd never seen My Dinner with Andre, so I was like, okay, I know what I'm doing tonight. I had to watch My Dinner with Andre, and then I was like, how is this related to our show? Because everybody else was dressed in Pulp Fiction clothes. So that night, I remember watching My Dinner with Andre and being like, these guys are just having a conversation. It's super engaging. But then thinking okay, so everyone's having a Pulp Fiction party. Me and Jeff are just talking at a dinner table. Okay, and then we showed up with teleprompters and it was amazing. And then the weirdest thing was that Tim Tebow showed up that day.
Oh my God!
Because while we're doing the scene, he's standing over there because he's shooting a Hanes commercial right there. And he is, I don't think he was a fan of the show at all.
No.
But
He didn't know who we were. He knew Ken from The Hangover.
He was so excited to see Ken. He was like, do the hangover. Do it. Do it. Do the thing.
So
That's
the whole
that monkey's
crew-
friend.
The whole crew, no one's watching me and Joel. They're all watching Tim Tebow talk about a Hanes commercial. And I was like, this is perfect for our show.
It also was like, not the start, but sort of the start of the increasingly creative ways that we would disguise Chevy's body double.
Oh, yeah.
So that he was never on set
There's
while
three
we were
different Chevys
shooting
for this
the
one, right?
episode.
I think this was 3 different Chevys in the mask, right?
Yeah, his body double is the Gimp.
The Gimp, the body double.
And then his stand-in, John, who often would read his lines, so we'd just be staring into his body double's eyes, like,
Oh, yes.
and his blank face,
So
and then from
That's
way
right.
over there, you'd hear John being like, what? You know, I get erections. I get erections.
We had to react to one face while we hear erections over here.
But that was a good one.
I love that episode.
What was this?
Season 2, episode 21, Paradigms of Human Memory. Yvette and Jim, you picked this as also my favorite episode.
Feast your ears on these memory pops.
This is my favorite episode of the whole show because, one, I was so impressed with how quickly we moved. We did like 70 scenes in a week, wasn't it, you guys?
Yes.
And I just remember
days.
thinking, we
How
could
many
do
drawers did you shit in?
It was the
at least 5.
Yeah.
But I remember thinking, like, we could do this every week. We did 70 in a week. Why are we taking so long? That's part of the reason why I loved it, because I feel like we were so efficient this week, because we had to be. You know what I mean? Like, we had to be
Also,
efficient.
We shot at Universal
Yes.
Studios, which was different because we usually shot at Paramount
Yeah.
until we moved
We didn't have the
into-
budget to go outside normally, so that we were just excited
So
to have
excited.
sunlight hitting our
Yeah, because
faces.
we also got to see all of the behind the scenes stuff. Like, we know how everything works at Universal. And like that water that comes down, we know how that works.
Jaws.
So we got to be on the other side of it. I just, I'm a fan of entertainment, so I just love that part of it too. And I think it's a really funny episode because everything goes so fast. It's the writers created jokes in every single nanosecond. So if you guys haven't watched this episode in a long time, go back and watch it, because there's jokes on the walls. There's people walking by that are jokes. It's not just what we're saying. It's like jokes on top of jokes on top of jokes. I loved this episode.
Chris, that was your
Well,
episode.
no,
That was McKenna's
this was a
episode.
gang. My name's on it, but this was gang written because we ran out of time. I know you're shocked to hear. And so this was gang written. Dan had always wanted to do a clip show that was not a real clip show, which is then the opposite reason why you do it. The whole reason why you do a clip show is like,
That takes
we're
some
so
time
exhausted.
You know, and your show's
just to have people sitting on a living room couch and go, remember that time, Junior fell over the dog?
Yeah.
But no, this was, so everyone thought we were insane for doing this, but the crew, Tristram Shapiro directed it. We had this crew, it was like an army. We marched through Universal all day long and got
So much fun.
But also the Russos, right? Didn't we have like 3 crews going? I think the Russos
I don't know. I'm trying to remember if they picked up some of this.
I remember Joe, doing that thing where he seems like a little mafia character. Where he's like, I tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna go to the Universal backlot. We're gonna run and gun guerrilla style. I'm gonna be over here. Anthony's gonna
That's
be
your
over
Russo?
there. Yeah.
That's a good Russo.
It's got to be sitting like this more.
We gotta do it, guys. We gotta do this. We're gonna go. We're gonna run it. Bada boom, bada bing.
No, first of all,
Hose it down, hose it down.
you guys are acting like he wasn't.
We gotta get this.
I love the idea that
You're acting like he wasn't just looking at a laptop the whole time typing on it. Yeah, that was great.
ESPN.com.
Did you watch me? Yeah, it was great. We got it.
great.
He would do fantasy
Cavs
football.
won.
Be like, again, do it again. Louder.
That guy
Great.
really needs to get his shit together or he's gonna fail.
Fail.
Exactly.
I do remember when we were there that day, the War of the Worlds set, where you do the trolley and then the things go off. So we were shooting that thing where they supposedly did Habitat for Humanity and it burned down and I was scolding them. So every now and then the ride would just go off. So we'd be in the middle of a take and you'd hear the car go. Let's hold. Say it fast.
One of the funniest bits that I remember in this was that we were in the World. What the fuck? War of the Worlds set with all the exploded things, and then it was this dumb bit. It was you, right? Like McKenna. It was this sort of like everybody lined up, and then the team going like, "Who did this?" And then like the idea that Britta and Jeff, like in particular,
Oh, it's like step forward. It's like who did it?
Yeah,
Step
like,
forward.
This habitat was for humanity.
Yeah, this habitat was for humanity.
it's those little moments like, did I just do the dad thing where I repeated your story? Yeah.
That's it.
You know what I love is we
I
were
had
on
different
War of the
words for
Worlds,
it.
and I was standing in front of a house. What if we just do Groundhog Day with just one answer?
I was just thinking of it as the War of the Worlds bit, and you're like, the habitat for him. Yeah, right. Okay.
I would say, but like the detail that went into, because I remember like the whole montage, I think is probably one of the best, probably my favorite sequence in the whole show is the Dean's montage of coming in. But they were told, well, it's too hard. We can't, because we wanted to do changes of it. We wanted to actually have everyone in the foreground, like, change and
clothes.
like, and it was one of those things like, how are we gonna do that? But you did a bunch of quick changes, and we.
Yeah, we just-
It was me
Just
and
shut him.
Joel
Yeah.
and Jim. Yes.
Yeah, we had like an afternoon off because you guys just sat there as he changed clothes.
Yeah, they just locked it off, and then I do one, and then run, and they change everything, and those two just sat around there.
We had multiple. Yeah, I think Joe and Anthony had to come in and then oversee it. We had to by the end of the week there were definitely like 3 different sets
But
going on.
The DGA did call a few times.
Yeah. The core of why the episode succeeds is because we were smart enough to go, we can't just do stylistic masturbation. We can't just send the audience the signal that we're bored with our show and we're gonna like make fun of TV, because then they're like, what am I doing here?
Well,
and
except for the cape.
And I was talking about that. I was like, there needs to be something as major here as this is empty. And Emily Cutler was like, Britta and Jeff fucked.
Yeah.
That was the episode where we learned that, and it's like you could easily forget that, where you're like, it's like, oh, it's the fake clip show. But
She only pitched that because she thought she got money for it since paintball they fucked.
Right.
She thought it was like a character payment.
Oh, it's all of them
Is
finding
sex a
out.
character?
Sorry, that's
Find
okay.
out.
You're right. I conflated stories. Emily Cutler did that for the paintball episode. Britta and Jeff fucked. This is the episode where someone decided this is about everyone finding out.
I just can't believe Donald didn't choose this image for one of his album covers.
Look at Yvette.
It's great. It's so good.
I love the rakish angle to the hat. Like Yvette, why is Yvette the one that?
No, because I had that doggone weave in. I couldn't get the hat on. So we kind of pinned it to the side.
You look like the one that's
Donald,
like,
what
what
do
are
you
these,
mean?
St. Patrick's hats?
Yes!
Yes.
Torg!
Torg.
Season 3, episode 4, Remedial Chaos Theory, Gillian.
See, season 3 was good.
I will note you almost all picked
Dare
season
you.
2 moments.
No, this is my favorite episode. This nearly killed us. We were shooting this until the week it aired. I remember one night we were shooting a completely different episode, and they said, Yvette Gillian, go put on those 3-0.
And I think we cried.
Yeah.
I cried.
It was just, I just think that it's brilliant, and this is just.
You just need to spray your face one more time with fake blood.
I love this show, guys. Was this the beginning of Toilet Olives? Was that the introduction? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
As a thing?
No. That's existed for time immemorial since toilets. This was just the first time it'd been mentioned on our show.
I remember that was an issue too because they did want to put a blood on my face again, and I remember thinking we're still filming another episode, and I told them how long it would take to redo my makeup, and then you guys didn't do it. I remember that because it takes a long time to do my makeup.
Don't look at me.
Yeah, it was you.
But with my kids going, me so hungry, me so hungry.
Oh, pizza dance.
Megan Gans.
Do it.
The Megan Gans dance.
Do it.
That pizza dance. So good.
Will you do a little of the song? You don't have to do the dance.
No, I'm sorry, I just said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do the dance.
All right.
Oh my God, that was just a joke. I didn't know she'd do it. Wow.
In those cute shoes too.
Pizza. Honey, me so hungry.
Gillian
Oh my God.
Jacobs. Gillian
Roosevelt.
Jacobs.
Roosevelt.
Gillian Jacobs.
Amazing.
So
Still humiliated, but you guys seem to like it, so.
For you.
I remember McKenna's face and the whiteboard behind him that was one story circle for every single character in every single timeline. So 36 circles. It looked like a serial killer's lair. And was that when you got scratched by the cat? No, maybe. Well, you got scratched by the cat.
Right
of this
around
episode.
there, maybe after. Yeah, it was.
Remember you looking at, you were like, anything else? And I'm like, no, I'll just do a quick pass on it. You go get some rest. And he's like, but then you're gonna rewrite it. I'm like, no, baby, no. It's cool.
Is that why Chang got scratched by a cat?
I got bit by my wife's cat when we were moving out. Yeah, so it was right around there. And then it was like I was sitting in the room for about a day and a half, and it just started getting bigger and bigger, and then it got really painful, and I had to keep on holding it over my head. And then at a certain point, I think everyone was like, you have to go to the hospital. It's like this big.
No, his hand was so big that all his fingers.
Yeah.
Wow. All his fingers were the same length.
6.
That's how big his hand was.
And I also love that it was supposed to air as 303, and it aired as 304. And the show opens with us knocking on the door, and it says 303 is the apartment number. Guys, it was a good show.
It's an amazing show. Amazing show.
So season 4 happens. Okay, so season 5. Dan's back, where, in terms so much as, it was like a couple that broke up, that got back together. Were there sort of commitments like we're going to do it better this time in terms of working?
I don't even remember.
Well, hence the promise and the opening musical number. It's gonna. I mean, that was like a big promise to NBC.
Oh God, yeah, because that was still for Greenblatt. So it was like, why am I back? What back alley deal did they do to like pick up Pan Am for more episodes, or what was the? I don't know how I got my job back. I have no idea.
That was Joel McHale right
Joel
there.
McHale.
That was Joel McHale. Seriously.
Right.
That was all Joel.
But it's also amazing how you can
power.
get a ton of publicity for firing the creator, and then guess what? Get a ton of publicity for hiring him back.
Yeah, the old Coke, the classic Coke myth. Right.
So out of the frying pan, hit the fryer. Donald leaves.
Oh man.
This is the time where I open the floor for stories or feelings about Donald.
Why can't you be a worse rapper?
I was just worried we were never going to see LeVar Burton again.
I've said this 1,000 times before. I think he's one of the most talented human beings I've ever met. And
You've never said that.
I say it all the time. And I also want to add the caveat. I didn't meet Prince. I didn't meet Michael Jackson. So I'm not trying to say that. But he's so talented in every creative endeavor. I mean, he can bake. He can crochet. He can dance. I'm not kidding. He can bake. He can crochet. He can dance. He can do comedy. He's funny with physical. He just can do everything. And he's also a kind man, which a lot of people that are super talented, they're not always nice. And Donald's nice. So I just wish him every success and,
And here he is, you guys, right back there.
Donald Glover, everybody.
He's doing This Is America
Donald
right
Glover.
now.
Donald was so funny on the show. And also, I think I would put him as the #1 person who behind the scenes had us crying,
All the
laughing
time.
so hard.
All the time.
There was a bit I could tell you he would do all the time, but I don't think we can really do
We
it.
can't talk about it anymore.
I didn't think we could.
But his bits were funny, like over and over. He would do a
Tell you
bit.
guys individually
That's 20
afterwards.
times.
No, they're
still-
saying no. They're saying no. But
God, I was-
also, I'll never
Been talking about it
forget-
on your text chain later.
Yeah, we'll text each other. I'll text you, Ken, about that. I was just gonna say that also it will be forever really special to me that like we would hear his music before anyone. It was like I will remember always him coming to set being like, I'm gonna make a mixtape, and us being like, you make music? Let's hear it. Like,
Oh, that's good.
And a real-
it sounds good.
A real efficient use of time too. Like I joked about this. Like when they would say cut, I would go to craft services and eat donuts. That's how I ended up with diabetes. Donald would write like a TV show or write an album. Like he really used his time efficiently every time they said cut.
and then I would use time between takes to try to memorize all the lyrics to Donald's
That's right.
songs
And rap it out.
and rap them back.
She
to
was
him.
pretty
He'd be
good.
Like,
She was pretty good.
please
Yeah,
stop
you're good.
doing that.
I thought you were
I'd be
good,
like,
Bree.
I'll never stop. We
I
don't
loved
speak
it, Bree.
anymore.
I loved it.
Thank you.
So Donald leaves, and then the next episode, clicker. Oh no, it doesn't work.
Oh, let's go.
Oh no.
What is it?
So, well, what should have showed up is Ken's favorite scene, which is bear down for midterm.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah, it
Click it again. Click it again.
There it is.
it's,
Oh my gosh, that explains
God,
it.
what an image.
I remember there was an episode where I'm eating a pine cone sandwich. I think they actually, I think it's so poorly performed they cut it from the episode. And then I remember like just getting burned out. Maybe it was me just kind of believing my own hype or everything else. I remember sending an email to Dan and I just said, "Is there a world where Chang could be more grounded?" Because I used to be a doctor, and then I used to, and I'm literally eating a pine cone sandwich, and I don't mind if Chang is. I don't mind if I feel like there's an arc where Chang could pay his dues because I think he's been jailed. He's been doing all. And
You tried to
he
murder everyone in the school.
He tried to murder the study group, but I think that he's paid his dues. No matter how pathetic he is, he deserves a second chance. And I sent this as an email to Dan, and then Dan.
As punishment, Dan wrote this episode.
Yes, and then Dan sent me an email back, and I still have it to this day, and it gets me emotional. Where he said, just please, because we're dealing with Donald's exit, just please, pretty please, eat a pine cone sandwich for Uncle Dan and Uncle Chris. And I swear to God, in the Hot Lava episode, and I swear to God, I'll write you a monologue that you'll do your best acting, and even your daughters will say, well, this guy has range. And I'm like, well, I'm not that good an actor. I'm not that good. I'm not that good. I don't know how to cry on scene. And then the next episode, which was the Bear Down for Midterms episode after the Hot Lava episode, it literally is all of my email is in that script, in that monologue, and it was really describing just what Chang has gone through, and it moved me to tears. And when the director was Tristram, when he said action, I just couldn't stop crying, and it's the best moment of my acting career. So it's the best moment. And every time I've had to be emotional in a movie since, I always think of Bear Down for Midterms, and it's because of Dan's email. That's
But what
the
would
truth.
you give to be eating a pine cone sandwich in a scene now? I mean,
I think that would have helped my career even
Yeah.
more.
Let's
I think I
bring out
should've-
the pine cone
I should have
sandwich.
done the pine cone sandwich.
maybe they'll have a pine cone
they made
and
it out of
masked singer
chocolate.
next year.
It was a chocolate.
It was chocolate
that
It was
made
delicious.
to look like a pine
It was
cone.
not a pine cone
Also,
sandwich.
It was actually, we shot the first 5 out of order. The fifth episode we shot was actually the Ass Crack Bandit episode.
Oh my God.
That's what we did before the
Which
Bear
was,
Down.
I think your final straw was having to walk backwards with a fake
Oh
chain.
my God, the churro up my ass, and from my asshole to my mouth.
Season 5 was good.
Yeah, it was
Very
very
good.
good.
My real mouth.
And Bob Rowe is mad at me because I'm not hitting my marks, and I'm walking backwards, and I can't hit my mark. He's so mad at you. Bob was mad at me.
They were.
Sorry, assistant.
But seriously, Bear Down.
Yes!
There's one other
Yeah.
thing from season 5.
One of the best
We
moments of all
only have
time.
43 seconds left. Enough of your angst.
God, yes.
We're gonna go over. So we just printed out. I was gonna play a clip. I do have the lyrics printed out.
Yes!
Do it. Do it. Do it.
Oh. Yeah! Oh!
Yes!
I should say before this fun fact, and no one needs to chime in after I say this, I got this in one take.
Wow.
No one needs to chime in.
Do it.
Oh no.
Well, I'm a peanut bar, and I'm here to say your checks will arrive on another day. Another day, another dime, another rhyme, another dollar. Another stuffed shirt with another white collar. Criminals, Wall Street taking the pie. All the black man gets is a plate of white lies. Prisons recruiting them, police be shooting them. Rap artists looting them, labels all diluting them. Barack Obama is scared of me, but there's all of my knowledge and I spit it for free. Let me clear my throat. Ha 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 ha. Whoa, whoa. Boom. Boom! Boom! What? Artist! 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 I don't know what that was. Artist! 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 I don't know what that was. Artist!
Joke of that.
Artist! Artists.
Jim made me laugh so hard that I looked directly into the lens.
You're
at
laughing.
The end of the
She's laughing in the
It
take
made it
that's
into
in
the
there.
cut. Gillian laughing during this scene.
Yeah, we had to debate about
love
that.
it
We're like,
so
well,
much.
she'd be laughing. It's a funny situation.
Wasn't that Jonathan Banks?
That was Jonathan
That
That
was
was
Banks'
Jonathan
son there.
Banks' son.
Hank, the keeper Banks.
In between Jonathan going like, I will tear your throat out.
So we are over time. So I will ask
Oh,
the
to the
question.
Bachelor Nation, are they coming in next?
they're coming
Okay,
back.
great.
Zing.
We had asked for audience questions, and almost every one was the exact same question, which is movie, just movie question mark. So. I will add, preparing for this, I've read you each 5,000 times answer like, sure, I'd love to do it. So I imagine you still feel you'd love to do it, but let's talk about realistically what we would need to do it. Like
$20 million for Donald.
Yeah.
That would do it.
Is it? But are you thinking about it? Are you like, oh well, Allison's rapping Glow, and then maybe if we get
My Card Shark schedule, I'll check
Oh,
it to see. Part of
Some
ABC's
errands
Summer
that I
of
need to
Fun,
do.
by the way.
It is a weird Ouija board thing where it's like, how are you supposed to, who's supposed to say, everyone do this? I don't know. That's what I've always said. I'm like, I don't know how does it happen? I don't know.
I think you write it.
Sounds like it starts with you, Dan.
Yeah. Do it, Dan. Do it, Dan.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Yeah, and then I write it, and then half of the people are like, yeah, I don't want to do it.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Are we
Fool me,
going to do it?
fool me.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Oh yeah. Everyone that showed up for the Vulture reunion will do the movie.
Yes.
What a shock. You know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about Jonathan Banks. How are we gonna get him?
if there were to
Tear
be a
your
movie,
throat
what
out.
would you want from it, regardless of the plot? But like, what would you hope from it? Any of you, in terms of
Like a great payday, that would be great.
anyone?
I just would love to have everybody back together again. I think that would be really
Amen.
sweet. You know, we had a lot of fun. It's a lot of long hours, but we had a lot of fun on set, and you know, it's a family, so that would be fun for me to come back and do that.
I mean, you look back, it's just like the reason why we're all here is because it's, you know, for me personally, I think it's the best thing I've ever done, been a part of. So I'm very grateful, very grateful.
Yeah.
No, for all of you,
It is the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah, Joel tells me that every day. How dare you? F you, Joel. How dare you? I had a moment.
Couldn't help it.
But for all of you, regardless,
Todd Phillips,
you've
the
all
bad
had
guys.
super busy careers. Where does this stack up as you look back in your career of the last 15, 20 years?
I mean, at a certain point when the fans started organizing their own convention for the show, Communicon, which Yvette and I attended
Every year.
Yes. I think I realized that there was no guarantee that anything I would do going forward would have this kind of impact on people, and that's separate from success. But the level of impact and the depth of feeling that people had about it, I recognized at the time that there was no guarantee that anything I would ever do would mean as much to people. So that is truly extraordinary, and I'm glad that I had the ability to see that in the moment and appreciate it, and not just in retrospect. But for that alone, I think it has to be up there for me, number one, and I'm so grateful for it. I mean, it changed, you know, I think for a lot of us, it also changed our careers too as actors in terms of like where our careers had been. And so, I mean, it changed everything about my life. So it has to be number one.
I'm echoing that. Definitely number one. The moment I read this script, I was like trembling because my agent said, this is the role you were meant to play, and they've never said that before or after. So I was like, okay. And then I read it, and I was like, this is unbelievable. The writing is just so rich. It's so specific. And the cast is obviously incredible, and they're just amazing. So on set, it was just such a joy, always unpredictable and exciting. And we'd read the script, it was funny. We'd get on set, it became funnier. We'd watch it, and we'd still laugh. And that to me was just so joyful. And then, yeah, connecting to people, I get reactions all the time. People saying that, oh, you're just like me and my best friend, or they'll quote stuff to me from Farscape that I have no idea what they're talking about. Or people will be like, hey, Parks and Rec. And I'll be like, no, wrong show, but that's fine. We'll take it. But truly, I feel so lucky, so fortunate to laugh every day like this. It's the best. So for me, number one.
I think what is unparalleled is the amount of laughs that we had behind the scenes. There will never be another job where I cry laughing every day. Like the silliness level was at an all-time high, and we were so close and still remain close and are such a family. Sometimes Betty Gilpin, who I work with on Glow, will be like, I've watched the outtakes from Community, and you don't do that here. And I'm like, I'm being professional now. This is a new side of my career where I'm an adult.
You don't do taco, taco, taco?
I don't do taco, taco, taco. And I don't do get that goog on. I also just will cherish the amount of, like, languages and voices and characters that we created backstage, behind the scenes, that when people would come in to play like a guest star role, I always felt for them because we were very warm and inviting, but we would be quoting jokes that didn't make it to air. We had shirts made that said, don't eat the crab dip. No, but they didn't say yay because the version that so it was, don't eat the crab dip, what? That's right. Because that's what we thought was the quote, and said it for a full calendar year or however long. And then we watched the episode and we were like, don't eat the crab dip, what? Yay. Oh, they went with that. Oh, they went with that one. That's interesting. So yes, I feel like the fun that was had, it can never be matched.
For me, the greatest gift of Community for me has been getting to watch all of these people at the beginning, some of them at the beginning of their greatness. You know, like just all of you. It's like they were starting out. When Gillian talks about it changed her life, she was living in New York, and this was, you know, she moved to LA for this job, you know. It was, everybody blossomed on this set, and we got to watch each other become everything that we're doing now that you guys love. We got to watch the seeds of that in everyone. So I talk about Donald, but it's true for each one of them. We got to see each of them be great and become great. And that's something that I cherish as. That's why, I don't know if you guys know this, like I'm like a huge celebrator of people. So whenever one of them does anything, if you see my Twitter feed, I blow it up because I'm so proud of everything you guys do. And I ran into Allison at the Golden Globes, and I'm seeing Allison at the Golden Globes and she's nominated. Like it's just huge for me. So just that I got to see these amazing performers at their beginning, some of them, some had already made it, but at the beginning is the greatest blessing for me.
I feel bad because mine's going to be exactly the opposite. For me, I couldn't get out faster enough. No, I mean, it's to just keep it brief in the sense that, I came, they had already started shooting the pilot, and I walked into audition for the dean where they were shooting. And so
at a closed bank in the Valley, I remember
closed bank in a little
in Northridge,
room.
the porn capital of Southern California.
We're all crammed in there, the Russos and everybody just crammed.
That's Chatsworth.
So I was
How
sort of
dare
playing
you.
catch up to this experience a little bit, and then I was sort of like, you never know if you're going to be recurring, what that really means, and I ended up coming back quite a bit, and I think about season.
Yeah, quite a bit. Every fucking episode, and you had all the time.
But I think it was season 3 when Joel started making eye contact with me, where I felt like my heart.
You'd earned it.
The Oscar really changed things on Saturday.
Change it for Joe.
It did for Joel.
But no,
it was for adaptation,
Adaptation.
not original.
Down here. Someone else did all the
Same.
work. No, real quick, it's just like it's so hard when you're in something like this or anything in your life to be completely present in it. And it's really when you're sitting on stage here reflecting on this thing that and you see these clips that you realize, oh, that's what it was doing. It was tugging at my heart when I was there. And I really do appreciate every moment we had on there. Long hours, the creativity, the fact that we were living in a bubble where we were fighting as these underdogs creatively. I mean, not creatively underdogs, but I'm just saying we could do things and experiment. And people were like, what are you? What are you doing? Yeah. And then a giant handful of people got us. And I think that there's such a reward in knowing that you are telling stories that challenges some people. You're breaking molds. You're doing something that's not on TV. You're doing epic things. You're doing small things. You're doing character things. And you never lose sight of your characters. And Dan's exactly right. We were saying lines that were connected to character. And I thought that was such a gift. So I would say, in conclusion to this, as I said, let me just briefly said. Wow. So let me end by saying, Jim, shut the fuck up.
Anything to add, Dan or Joel?
I'll keep it brief. It's the greatest fucking thing that's ever happened to me.
I guess for me, what was so powerful.
Anyway, I wanted to say this one thing. So we were on the World of the War set, and
Yeah.
this house
I have a
was
story
on
too
fire.
about that.
Okay, if you want.
I mean, look, live action doesn't move as much merchandise, but
It's fair.
I have 15% of an emotional back end on this that pays dividends every day in the swimming pool that Rick and Morty paid for. This is absolutely the thing that I will always be the most proud of. I mean, it's like network TV isn't necessarily dead, but it's turned into a different thing. I mean, they're all becoming streaming platforms now. We were there with Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, and we were there at the end of this crazy era. This is like the end of must-see TV, the end of broadcast. We were the tar pit of that.
We were the barn. We were the barn that had the shotgun.
Comedy starts here.
And we got to work with it. It was sort of 150 of people that were like, they were A-list. The guy that hauled the cable, I never knew his name, but the best at hauling cable.
Billy Cable. That's what Cable was.
His name was. But
John Goodman showed up to do the show multiple times.
It is, it's hands down, absolutely the most proud, the proudest. How do you talk?
Proudest.
The thing of which I am most proud, forever and ever. Yeah.
Community, thank you guys so much.
I'm a die by
Have a good
werewolf.
day.